Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the session on ODA X10 and the ODA software release 19.21. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam Tan. I am business development for ODA, covering the Asia Pacific and Japan region. And I'm very pleased to be here with you this very lovely Friday, 5 a.m. in the morning. First, some housekeeping. We do have a Q&A section open. So during the presentations, during the sessions, if you have any questions, please do post a question inside there. The session is muted to keep out background noise, but if you do have a need to ask a question verbally, feel free to raise your hand and we'll try and get to you as quickly as possible. If the session is being recorded, but if you do have audio or video issues with Zoom, please go into chat and we'll have one of our technical guys try and help you with the chat problems or with the Zoom problems there. If you're in a noisy area and you can't hear the audio very well, we do have subtitles turned on as well, so you can actually read the captions if you prefer to do that instead of listening to audio. On that note, let's get started. Today's agenda, we'll be talking about ODA X10. We'll talk a little bit about the origins of the ODA and the value propositions that the ODA brings to the table. And then we'll talk specifically about what's new in the ODA X10, which was released at the late last calendar year, and the new ODA software release 19.21, which was also released at the end of last year, if not early this year. We'll try and get through all of this in about an hour. And then if we have time, we'll do some Q&A and a little bit of closing. And we'll see how we go with that today. So, for some of you who may not be familiar with Oracle Database Appliance, let me just start off by saying that the ODA brings to the table 5 very simple value propositions. And that is simple, optimized, affordable, reliable, and secure. And these have been the key value propositions ever since the ODA was first released back in September of 2011. So we are 12 years into a product. The product has evolved, grown, and improved over that time. And for any product to last this long is quite impressive. I mean, most of our Oracle engineered systems, for those of you who have been with Oracle for a while, most of you will know our engineered systems don't last that long. And this is one of the 2 systems that are actually over a decade old now. There are a couple coming up on that 10-year mark as well. And we can have sessions about that separately if you are interested. The ODA can be best summarized in a single sentence, and the sentence would be that it is the best engineered system for a solution-in-a-box deployment. And solution-in-a-box is quite straightforward. It just means that it's the best engineered system to deploy all your data and all your applications. And in fact, a lot of our customers do it that way. They like the capabilities of the box, they like the compact form factor, and they like the fact that it is engineered to be productive and usable as soon as you get it right out of the box. What is an engineered system in terms of an ODA? What do we put inside an ODA to make it an engineered system? Well, it's fairly straightforward. We take some of our x86 servers that we have. We add networking into the mix. We put some storage into the box as well. We add ILOM, which is the integrated lights out management, which allows customers to put ODAs in locations that do not have a physical presence, mix in some decent amounts of Oracle Linux with virtualization from KVM, add an Oracle database layer in terms of GI and ASM, as well as a lot of database magic. Wrap it all up with something called the Oracle Database Appliance Manager, and you have an engineered system. Most of our customers never have to do anything from scratch. They don't have to load a CD, double-click an installer, and go through installing a software from the ground up. It's all done for you because of the virtue of the appliance nature. So customers could, with a single line on the command line or through a single page on a browser, deploy a fully highly available, redundant Oracle database with all the options and configurations with mirrored storage, etc. All tuned to take advantage of the hardware that it is specifically running on. And this has been some of the magic of ODA since the day it first came up. As I said before, ODA came out in September 2011, and every year we have evolved this product. And obviously, the most obvious improvements, excuse me, obviously, the biggest improvements are always in the area of storage as well as processors. So as you can see, the amount of RAM, the amount of hard drive storage, the amount of CPU cores has grown significantly since the very early days. However, I do want to point out, and I will have a slide on this, I want to point out that the number of cores is not the be-all and end-all of performance. The amount of hard drives is also not the be-all and end-all of performance, okay? While it is nice to have more cores, we rarely find a customer who deploys database on all 64 cores in an ODA. It's always in a mixed environment where they have databases and applications. We have always had a HA model since September of 2011, and HA by definition here is basically 2 compute nodes with shared storage. And the idea behind this is that if one node should fail, or if one node should need to be taken offline for patching or upgrading or maintenance, the other node carries on with all the necessary services. So it basically allows for a customer to be able to do patching and all the necessary operational steps without impacting on any of the services being deployed. As you can see from this chart here, the size of the number of cores on the CPU has increased significantly since we first introduced the machine, to the point where the ODA HA is extremely performant. And therefore, somewhere around about the halfway through the life of the ODA, we introduced what was known as the single node edition, where we don't have external storage. So it's a single server with storage built into the server itself. And because the storage isn't shared, because we don't have to do any of that handshaking protocols and stuff, the IOPS on a single node machine is actually almost double that of the HA model. So as you can see here, the IOPS for the latest generation, so the previous generation X9 was just shy of 5 million IOPS, whereas the IOPS for the previous generation X9 was just around about the 2 to 3 million IOPS mark. And later on, we'll talk specifically about the improvements that we've brought with the new X10 generation in terms of performance and in terms of capability. Now, as I said before, though, it's not just about the hardware. It's also about the software. And every quarter, roughly every 3 to 4 months, we release a new version of software. And the new version of software brings enhancements across the board. We improve on the reliability of the system. We improve on the security of the system. We improve on the availability of the system. Obviously, we also bring the newest version of database available at that time. But a lot of the capabilities that we've introduced into the ODA over the last 10 years has been in direct response to customer requirements. Customers have come to us and said, we like this, it's great, but can you add this one thing? Sure, we'll add that to the list. And every one of those list items that we get, we just basically keep rolling it out and we keep improving on the product while maintaining all the previous backward compatibility as well. So if your customer happens to fall behind on some of the patching, it's not a major deal. If they didn't need the features, that's okay. But obviously, don't fall too far behind, because then you start missing on all the security patches and all of the bug fixes as well. I mentioned this before a little bit earlier. It's not about number of cores, and it's not about the amount of hard drives. Most customers never deploy the full 64 cores of Oracle Database. They'll use somewhere in the 8 to 16 core range of database. And that means that they are far more interested in performance per core. And one of the things that customers seem to have this thing that goes on in their mind is that more gigahertz means more performance. And while that may be true up to a certain point, there is a threshold where it becomes diminishing returns. So in this example of the last 5 generations of ODA, you can see that our clock speed has stayed reasonably the same, 2.3 to 2.4 gigahertz. We have not gone crazy in terms of clock speed on our CPUs. However, we use a benchmark application called SwingBench, and SwingBench is a database benchmark application. It simulates read-write transactions as if it was a real order entry system, and through improvements across the board, improvements in I/O, improvements in software, improvements in configuration, improvements in storage, as well as the CPU and RAM, we have been able to double the actual TPS per core as measured by swing bench. And we've done this without going crazy on gigahertz, without going crazy on the amount of spindles that we have or the amount of I/O. And this really is one of the key examples of how a balanced system gives a far better real-world experience than just trying to go and adjust the dial on just one metric on a system, right? You take the CPU clock, you dial it all the way up to 11, you don't get that same response on the actual TPS, which is what you care about, right? So what do customers have to do to get all these latest features? Well, if you have a customer that's on a previous generation ODA, the customer has had, you, Mr. Customer, have had the advantage of sitting on some of the longest lived hardware with support from any vendor in the industry, okay? As an example, if you had purchased an ODA X7, which we released in October of 2017, you would still be getting software updates, new features, and new capabilities today. You will be able to run every single piece of software and ODA release improvement that we have shipped since October 2017 until about 2025. Okay, so the idea here is that we continue to provide new features and enhancements up to 5 years after the last order date of the product. And you can still get hardware replacements for the life of the machine. A couple of years ago, we had a customer that was using an ODA V1, a system that shipped way back in 2011. So this was in 2022, and he had one of these systems still running, still operating, probably hasn't been patched in a few years, but it had just suffered a disk backplane failure. We shipped him a spare part. We knew who our customers were. We know who our customers are. We know where they're located, and we had spare parts available should anything fail. He was extremely impressed with that. Very, very happy, right? And you can see that today we have an ODA X10 that was just released last year. You have not even begun the 8-year journey yet. You'll be running Oracle Database 2030 on that system if you keep it all the way to the end of its useful life cycle. This is not just me saying it. On the screen here are URLs where you can go and look at that actually officially tell you what I'm saying is true. You will get the longest support life for these products and that compared to any other vendor. All you have to do is update the software and you will get the new features. But how do you update the software? What if you have a system that has been sitting around for a couple of years now and you're like 8 versions behind? Do you have to go through the jumps for getting from the old version to the new version? And in the past, that would have been true. You would have had to go and jump through a couple of hoops, go through a couple of interim upgrades to get to the point where you would be on the latest version. However, in the new versions of the ODA software as of 2 years ago, we introduced a feature called Data Preserving Reprovisioning, DPR. And that's what I call it. I can't say Data Preserving Reprovisioning quickly 3 times. So what DPR allows you to do is that it allows you to jump whole bands of upgrades. So in this example here, a customer can get from version 12.1 of the ODA software in a single leap and bound, go all the way to 19.15. And as we'll talk about later in this presentation, you can use DPR to get all the way to 19.21 in the single leap and bound. There are going to be some trade-offs. There are going to be some pros and cons, whether you want to do the actual upgrade process or use DPR. And we can explain that to you in more detail if you're interested. But it's good to know the option is there so that you don't have to go through all these interim steps. So we understand customers don't just run only a single ODA. So we have a lot of white papers. ODA is designed to be as friendly as possible out of the box, and we want to help our customers and our valued partners be able to build whole solutions out of using ODA building blocks. So we have white papers to help our customers get there. One of them is this ODA, Oracle Database Appliance, MAA, Disaster Recovery Solutions. And MAA is our maximum availability architecture. This white paper, if you follow it through, will give you 0 RPO and 0 RTO. right? And for those of you who understand RPO and RTO, that's actually I would argue that that's probably the gold standard, right? That's probably the gold standard to get to in terms of disaster recovery. Not every customer needs this. To get to zero RPO and zero RTO, it's a significant amount of investment for time and resources as well as management. You can scale it back. The white paper allows you to say, I don't want this bit, I don't want that bit, and then you step back from zero RTO to something more reasonable, like maybe 1 hour or maybe even a day, if that's all you require. On top of that as well, we also have white papers on doing recovery and backup, because we all understand that not all hardware is infallible. And in fact, sometimes even hardware is great, but we have malcreants out there that come in and do nasty things to our system over the network. So we do have backup and recovery best practices as well for ODA. There's a collection of white papers available that cover a range of topics. Happy to have them available to you if you're interested. However, no amount of white papers will cover every single possible permutation of a solution the customer requires. So we also produce huge amounts of technical details and technical documentation of the ODA. We tell you everything, right? We open the kimono wide. You can take a look at everything that we've implemented, and you can choose. All right, this makes sense. Let me go and add this into my environment. Let me do this to make this work. We want customers and partners to be well informed about how this appliance is engineered, so you can take best advantage of its capabilities. Okay, and this documentation is updated and maintained regularly. It's publicly available, so URLs in the bottom left-hand corner. So that was a lot of information. I threw a lot of things at you. And if you don't remember anything that I've told you, let me just summarize it very quickly. The ODA is the simplest, most affordable solution for your data and your applications. It brings to the table simplicity, optimization, affordability, reliability, and security. Those are our driving points, driving messages for ODA. This is how we decide on how we engineer the product and how we add features and capabilities to it. And now in 2024, and the 13th year of the ODA's existence, we are now sitting on the ODA X10 that takes advantage of the latest improvements in hardware, in CPU, in storage, and in software engineering. And to tell us more about those new improvements, I hand you over now to Mr. Paul Xian and Senior Carlos Ortiz from the ODA product management team. Gentlemen, over to you.
Hey, thanks, Sam. That was a great introduction to the Oracle Database Appliance. So let me get started, on my part of the presentation. Okay, so welcome everyone. And what I'm going to do in the next 10-15 minutes is really give you a quick overview of the latest version of the Database Appliance X10 and our latest software, the Oracle Database Appliance Manager 19.21. And so here's the quick agenda. What I'll do is do a quick overview. I think Sam did a great job, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, the overview, and then focus on the X10 and the 19.21. And then talk about what's in 19.21. It's really, Sam touched on it earlier, called data preserving reprovisioning. With 19.21, we'll have a new version of that that's going to update the Oracle Linux in ODA from Oracle Linux 7 to Linux 8. So it's a little bit of a work for the existing database appliance models from X9, X8, and X7, whereas X10 was shipped last year with Oracle Linux 8 already. So it doesn't have to go through this process again. Then the last part, which is really kind of the meat of the presentation, is a step-by-step demo, video demo that Carlos will do, that we actually take a ODA X8 HA from 1920 to 1921. So you can see exactly the whole process. So that will be very informative, I think. Then, of course, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A. So to summarize what Sam just went through, to think about the database appliance is really the key value. These are the main value propositions. Simplicity is kind of the key. Everything about this product line is about being simple, right? We can deploy a rack system in less than 2 hours. The maintenance is extremely simple. We ship patch every quarter. That's patch the whole software stack. So you don't have to worry about, if the server patch is going to be compatible with the storage patch, going to be compatible with the database patch. So everything's pre-tested by Oracle, right? The simplicity, it reduce your costs, ongoing operational costs. It's designed by the database group, so it's optimized to run Oracle database. There are a lot of features. I'm going to point out some that's simply not available on any other platform. It's an Oracle engineered system. So we do a lot of things that nobody else can do. And it's very affordable. Our entry price is at US list 20K, and then and scales up to our HA system. So again, and because it's simple to maintain, it also reduces your ongoing operational expenses. And then we have on-demand licensing, right? So we ship you 128 cores. You just have to start with licensing 2 cores. So very attractive for our customers. And of course, we're Oracle, so it's end-to-end secure, okay? So let's quickly start looking at the latest model that we introduced in September last year, the Oracle Database Appliance X10. And again, like Sam pointed out, that every 12 to 18 months we come out with the latest model that leverage sort of the latest technology, the x86 technology. In this case, we have moved to the AMD CPU architecture, but pretty much the same binary for everything. So really no impact to our customers. But what you get is twice as many cores per socket. And so we're able to do this and pretty much for the single node at the same price. Yeah, we're not increased our list price. On the HA, it has gone up a little bit because all the components have moved up to the latest generation, DDR5, PCI Gen 5. So you can see all the improvements that we provide to our customers on the latest version of the database appliance. And that translates into much better database performance, right? Over 50% improve in the OLTP performance. So these are the things that you automatically get the benefit by moving to the latest generation of the database appliance. Like ODA X9, the X10 family has the same sort of portfolio of products, right? We started with a small model at the lowest cost entry price, and then we have the large model with both sockets populated, more memory, more CPU, more storage. Then, of course, on the right-hand side, it's our best-selling model, the HA model, that provides the absolute availability for our customers with the largest, number of CPUs and storage, right? Almost up to, 792 terabytes of hard drive HDDs, or 368 terabytes of SSDs, right, for much better performance. So that's kind of the current portfolio of database appliance. And again, just to summarize, more of everything, faster, better performance, and so forth, okay? Now, Sam touched on this, and here's with the latest X10 specification, right? So as you can see the trend, right? We just every 12 to 16 months, just to provide more value for our customers on each of the evolution of the product line. And now we're up to X10 on the HA, and I won't spend too much time on this. Just better at the same cost, right? No price increase on the single node. And then Sam also touched on the software innovation, and I think this is actually more important than the hardware because we're constantly providing value by adding features and capabilities to this platform at no additional cost to our customers. So every 3 months, we release the latest database release updates with additional features and benefits. And I just want to point out some of the major enhancements we've done in the last few years. And again, these features are pretty much exclusive to Oracle Engineered Systems or to Oracle Database Appliance. I just want to highlight a few, such as integrated KVM support. If you have to buy virtualization software elsewhere, like a VMware or something, there's like tens of thousands of dollars of license costs, support costs. This is all built into our platform at no additional cost. We can do very fast, storage efficient database cloning for DevOps, testing, and development. Again, if you're going to buy Delphix, that's again tens of thousands of dollars of additional costs and license support costs. Here, it's all built into our platform, so you can, and it's database aware cloning, so that you can create a copy of a clone of a database, in less than 5 minutes. And so it's a very powerful tool built into the platform. Integrated back up to the cloud, to the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. Again, doing this hybrid cloud things with the on-prem system, again, built into our system. Integrated, rack and data guard support, so you can do one command instead of a two data guard between two ODAs. And these are the building blocks for our maximum available architecture. So very easy for our customers to implement the best practices that Oracle has to offer. Integrated TDE encrypts the database at rest on the storage. So even if some people take the drives off the database appliance, the data files are protected. Hypercolumn compression, more than 10-to-1 storage capacity saving for data warehouses, again, only available to Oracle Engineered Systems. And then we also built in recently, about a year ago, we introduced this feature that automatically protects any single instance Oracle databases on our HA system at no cost to our customers. It's just because the architecture supports it, so we built in this feature for our customers. So again, these are kind of the value add we add to the platform. And this is ongoing, right? Every 3 months, 6 months, we add new features and capabilities to the platform. Okay. All right, so let's quickly talk about the latest software release, 19.21. Now, keep in mind the two parts to these numbers, all right? Here, 19.21 means the ODA software 19.21, so it's different from database. You can continue to run database at 19.17, 19.18, but this is tied to the GI, or the grid infrastructure number. So this is our latest 19.21. And of course, every quarter we release this, and always has the latest patch for the database and for the GI. So you always have the option to patch all your databases to the latest, but you don't have to, right? We don't force you to do it. But this version is a little special because it's a unified release. We sort of diverged when we introduced X10, because that was introduced with Oracle Linux A. And the version of 19.20 for model X9, XA, X7 was still on Linux 7. So this version sort of kind of put all the models under Oracle Linux 8. And so that's why, because, to upgrade the operating system in the ODA software, it's a major deal. So that's why we have to treat it a little differently. And this is what we're going to talk about today in the demo. Now, before we get into the demo, I just want to quickly point out some resources that's available to you. You can see the URLs at the bottom of the slide. For example, for the X10, we have this blog that every time we release a new version, we talked about what version of database is supported and how you can patch to the latest ODA software release. So this is just quick reference points. So on the X10, it's very easy. We released it in September, supporting on Oracle Linux A and only 19.20 database, and then and now with 19.21, so we support both the versions, right? You can stay on 19.20. We don't force you to patch the database to 19.21, but you have the option to. And then of course we have the DB system or database in the KVM. And so those are also supported 19C and 21C databases. So this blog, you can go to and look at all the latest information and what database is supported and so forth. And for our older models, X9, XA, X7, as you can see, at this point, we support 19C database only. And we typically recommend the customer to stay within the 4 ODA software releases, in this case, 19.17. So in fact, because this is a major upgrade, the operating system upgrade, that you actually have to be 1917 to do the upgrade to 1921, the ODA software. Okay. And here's again a couple additional resources for you to check. Or you can always check to see this on the first one. I have the MOS node ID identified. This shows just generally, not for ODA, but for every system out there that runs Oracle database, what version of Oracle database are currently being supported. So as you can see, 19C, the long-term support is kind of coming to an end middle of this year. And there are some, extended support, but we're encouraging customers to move to our next long-term database support, 23C. That's and ODA will support that later on this year. So that again, so most of our customers will probably jump from 19C to 23C, later this year. And on the right-hand side, there's another reference point. All the ODA software support. Like Sam said earlier, we support the hardware as long as indefinitely, as long as the parts are available. But on the ODA software side, we're committed to at least 8 years of support. So this is just to illustrate the different version of the different models of the database appliance and when we start supported and when that software support will end. However, you'll still continue to get support from Oracle. It's just that and you can actually continue to patch your database. It's just that the ODA software itself, will reach a terminal release point after 8 years. And most of our customers typically, refresh their hardware, within that 8 years time frame. And here's just some additional details. Again, I put the MOS node so you can quickly, go there and reference all the more detailed information on, what version of the database appliance software is supported and what version of the database are supported. Yeah. Okay, so let me just quickly go through the new data preserving reprovisioning process. And for X10, it's very simple. It's our standard patching process. So there are two parts to it, really. You patch the infrastructure, which involves the operating system, the grid infrastructure, the firmware. And then you have the database patching, right? So these are the two. So because ODA X10 shipped with the Oracle Linux 8 already, so this is the standard process for the X10 customers since September last year. They just have to do these two parts. And this is all well established, well documented. We have a lot of information on the standard patching process. Again, this is really a big benefit for our customers because this is all pre-tested by Oracle. So you don't have to worry about any compatibility issues, whether the operating system patch is going to interfere with your storage or your database patch. And if you patch to the latest, you always have the latest security fix and also all the bug fixes. So for X10, it's very simple. You just patch the infrastructure, then you patch the database. Now for the ODA X9, XA, and X7, we have to go through this DPR process. And the reason we have this special tool is really what we think is the fastest and safest way to upgrade an Oracle database appliance to the latest. But you must be on 1917 or higher to patch to 1921. And what we'll do is we will reimage the system or the boot drive, and reattach that. So you don't have to redeploy your database. We don't touch the database during this process. And then one of the things to consider is that because we're imaging the system and boot drive, any customization will be lost. So you have to reapply them, any of the customization, okay? So this is just a quick summary charts of what we'll be doing and what Carlos will be showing you. The steps we'll be doing is that we have an XA system on the left-hand side, as you can see. That's on 1920 on Linux 8, and all the grid infrastructure are all on 1920. And after the DPR process, everything will be upgraded. You'll have a freshly reimaged system drive, boot drive, and your grid infrastructure will get upgraded to 1921 and patched to 1921, and all the database, whether it's in a DB system or on bare metal, will also be patched to the latest. And the process is really simple. It's 3 steps for this DPR process. We detach all the database, bare metal and in the KVM, and we will create one single metadata file, and then we image the system drive. Then after that, we reattach all the databases in bare metal in DB system with the metadata that we backed up. And then the customer will have the latest version of the operating system, the appliance manager. At this point, all the database stays the same. If you have older database, it will stay the old, in the previous version. We continue to support, right? Any 19C database from 1917 and up. And then you have the option to upgrade the DB system, if you have DB system, or if you have bare metal database, then you can patch that to 1921. So again, step 4 and 5 are optional. So what Carlos is going to be doing is showing you how the 3 simple steps to do this upgrade of the Oracle Linux 7 to Oracle Linux 8. So at this time, Carlos, I'm going to pass down to you.
Okay. And let me share. So we have a customer who placed a few questions. We're going to address them after the quick demo. But first, what I wanted to show you was some resources on the user documentation. This FAQ, I mean, if you click on it, it was updated to include data preserving reprovisioning. You can go here, click on it, and you see different topics, just general process pre-checks. And I noticed that there was a question about Oracle Data Guard in the set of questions that this customer asked, right? You can see them over here. Does restoration of Oracle Data Guard also restores Oracle Data Guard services? The answer is yes. So just an example, right? That's the Q&A. Another point that I want to mention is this, what's new in release, right? This one here will take you to the release notes. And I want to point this item 3 here, and this one over here for the bare metal system patches. You're going to see that to be able to go through this DPR process, you're going to be asked to download the latest patches. And in this table here is a nice link where you just go, right? Click on the link, sign in with your credentials, and then you can download the patch, right? And you can see here that you have the patch for the bare metal, the GI clone, the database clone, and the ISO image, which we're going to need since we're going to re-image as part of the DPR process. If you have DB systems, right, here's the system image, and everything just an easy link, right, to go get that information. And when you go to the home page and you just go to the view books here, right, you're going to find the deployment guide. In this case, we were doing it on an X8-2, right? You click on it, and there is a new chapter here to upgrading using DPR. And go here, just read the information. It gives you a lot of details, and you're going to get to the first steps, right? Where you need to download the server patch, and then it just goes on, right? On all the steps that you need to do. So what we did to simplify this in just a few minutes, right? We consolidated the steps that I'm going to show you. So as Paul mentioned, right, there's 5 major steps. The main DPR process is these 3 steps, and this is the demo that we're going to show you, right? We went through the process, recorded it in this short video, so we're going to show you the steps. And then for the last 2 steps, that's standard stuff that you've done before. And we're just going to show what steps needs to be done and how long it took us. We're not going to go through the demo. Now, keep in mind that we were using an X8-2 HA model. We don't have ASR setup. There are no database home in the local drive. We didn't have a data guard configuration in this one. Application KVMs, we didn't have that, and no shared CPU pool. So depending on your configuration, you may need to do some of the steps. So you got to go through the user guide, right, to look at the steps. but so let's go here. Let's start, right? This is an X8-HA. Here's the databases that we have. You notice that we have this one here, VMDB1, doesn't have any options. That means that it's in a DB system, right? The database running in a KVM, and this DB1. So those are the two that we're going to be updating. And then when I click here on DB systems, we have one DB system. Okay, so on step one, you see here the sub steps that we need to do, right? If you go through the user guides, then we did that, we summarized them, right? We're gonna download the server patch, update the repository, we update the components for the bare metal and also for the DB system. There is a pre-upgrade report that just checks to make sure that you can go ahead and proceed with DPR. And then after that, we detach the nodes, and it's going to come out with a couple of metadata files that we need to move outside of the Oracle Database Appliance since we're going to reimage the boot drive. So in this step here at the top, you see that we're updating the repository after we downloaded the file. By the way, in the user guide, you just grab the commands and copy paste into the CLI, right? That's why we do the CLI. It's very easy to do that. But here we have a different mount point. So we put them on an NFS server. You can do the same, or you can just load them directly into the appliance. And here we just confirm, okay, it was successful. Then after that, right after we uploaded the repository, we describe the component in the appliance, and it tells us on the right-hand side, you can see what are the available versions now that we uploaded the latest server patch. And you can see here what is the current one, and we can go to 19.21. So we're going to update it. The first step is to update the DCS items, right? The first one is the DCS admin. We confirm here that it was successful. Right? And then we update the DCS components. It tells us it's successful. We update the DCS agent, and I'm not going to run the confirmation that it's successful, but it's something that you need to do, right? Once we run those 3 steps, we run again. Okay, tell me the components. You can see here, right, that these DCS items are up to date. Okay, after that, we run the same DCS items in the DB system. So here I list the DB systems. So here you can see our DB system. And now I'm not going to show you the steps because they are the same, but I run them. And then once we describe the components inside the DB system, right, you can see here that they are up to date. Okay, so we updated the DCS items. And here we create a pre-upgrade report to make sure that we can go ahead and proceed with DPR. And you're going to make sure that everything is successful. If some of the steps are not successful, the user guide gives you some guidance on what to do, right? So here we show that for our HA system, everything was successful, as you can see here at the top, right? Now we can proceed with detaching the nodes. This is the first step in the DPR, well, let me just show you, right? ODA CLI detach node all, and you can see describe the report and just make sure that it was successful, right? As this one shows. Now we detach the nodes here, and it tells us to go to this directory, and these 2 files here, one is the metadata. These 2 files have the metadata. Those are the ones that we need to copy outside. Just go ahead and do it. I'm not showing the steps here for simplification. But once we're done with step number 1, you can see here the time that it took us for these sub steps. In total for this configuration, it was about 54 minutes. Okay, so once it's done, we go to the step 2, and this is where we do the reimage. If you've done reimage, pay attention to this item here. We cannot run cleanup. On the regular reimage, we do that, but not here, right? Because we need to preserve the data. And so you go to the island, the user guide tells you how to get there. Here, we're gonna put an NFS mount point since we put our image file there. We follow these steps, right? The user guide tells you a different method, but this is faster, or you can just use the user guide, right? Once it starts, you launch the Java console to look at the progress. And here I'm speeding up really fast, right? To just show you that, okay, it goes through the reimage, it goes to the login point, and then after that, we configure the first net, right? The two files that you moved out of it have the network configuration. Just make sure that it's exactly the same. So here we are putting the configuration for our system, and we're done. Now we repeat on the second node, which I'm not gonna show you, right? But you do the same thing, right? Once that is done, we are connecting to the node, and there we are connected. Describe the component. You can see that everything is up to date now that we reimage, with the exception of the BIOS. And we're gonna do that in one of the next steps. So this step 2 took us about 75 minutes, the reimage. Now you run them in parallel. It took us about 65 minutes. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the step 3, and you can see here all the sub steps, right? So let me just show you that. So updating the repository that you see here. Okay, describe that it was successful. Now we're going to create the pre-patch report for the storage. This one took only seconds because there wasn't anything to upgrade, but it's always safe to just run it. Okay. So this is done. Then the next step was, okay, now we update the server, right? We updated the repository, we update the server, and make sure that it's successful. Okay, so in this case, here we show success. And describe the component. You can see that everything is up to date now. Okay, after that, then we're gonna update the storage, right? Create a pre-patch report. Successful. And then we just do the actual update. This is the one that didn't have anything to update, so it just was a few seconds. After that, it tells us, okay, you update the repository with the grid infrastructure, GI 19.21. We do that, right? Make sure that it was done successfully. Okay, completed. And on this next step, right, now the two files that we copied outside of the Oracle Database Appliance, you put them back, right? So we did that here. You can see we put them back. You update the repository and just make sure that it completes. So once we did that, then we can restore. We start restoring the grid infrastructure here, right? You can see the -G here. And then after this, we're gonna restore the database and the DB system. Okay, so we make sure that it's successful, as it shows here. And now -D is gonna restore the databases, right? The databases that we had, and make sure that it's successful. And now -DBS is the DB system, right? And again, successful. And I'll show you the timing here. You can see here, right, this whole step 3, when we do the restoration, I mean, it took about 80 minutes. The server update about 20, and you can see here, GI is 37 minutes. Now, the next 2 steps here, we're just gonna show you what are the steps that are run, right? How long it took, but this is standard stuff, right? 67 minutes to upgrade the DB systems to 19.21, and then to patch the databases and patch the databases in the DB system, right? It takes about 45 minutes for the bare metal databases and 52 minutes for the DB system. If you don't have any DB systems, then obviously it's gonna go faster. So I tried to win as fast as possible so we can leave some time for the Q&A, but this is the summary of the demo. Oh, Paul, you answered some of the questions.
Yes, in the
Yeah.
Q&A.
So, I mean, let's just go through some Q&A. As I mentioned, right, you go to the FAQ, there's a bunch of questions there that are probably going to be applicable to what you are asking here. But Paul, since you went through it, do you want to mention some of them?
Yeah, there were a lot of questions about using data guard. So I answered, data guard, you don't have to use the integrated data guard feature. We do have that feature, but you can continue to run, the high level concept is that you patch to minimize the downtime. If you have two ODAs, that'll be great. Or you can even have a non-ODA product. You can use the data guard. You basically patch the standby first before you patch the production, and make sure everything works. And then you switch the workload over to the standby, and then you go back and patch the primary. So that will really minimize the downtime because it involves reimaging, as you can see the amount of time that Carlos went through. So that's kind of what we recommend using data guard. Ideally, you have two ODAs, and you can patch one up and then switch over and then patch the other one. So, and you could do it manually. We do not require integrated data guard to do this.
Okay.
Hey guys, there's a few more questions in there as well. Do you want me to call them
Yeah,
out?
so I'm looking at it. Hold on. So the attaching part, as Carlos went through, when you do the detaching part, the process will create one zip file and one checksum file. You just copy that over to your local laptop or something. So that contains all the metadata. So then you're reimaging both nodes, right? Or if you have single node, then you're reimaging just a single node, the boot drive. And then during the retouch part, then that's when you copy that meta file. It's a single zip file, and then you update that in a repository. Then that's how we do the magic, reconnecting the database to the appliance manager. So that's kind of how we do it. How would the data in manual data guard? Again, separate the DPR process is completely different from data guard, right? So they're kind of orthogonal, right? The database, data guard is only used for the switchover process, right? So you're working on one node, on the standby node, and then you do the DPR process within that, so that doesn't impact your production system. And then so you do the DPR process on the standby node, making sure everything's, you detach, image the node, and reattach. So your standby system's up to date with Oracle Linux A and 19.21, and make sure everything works. Then you switch the workload to the standby, and then you go back to the primary. So it has nothing to do with one another. So I just want to make sure that's clear. So again, data guard is a tool you use to minimize downtime. DPR is actually the process that you patch the ODA to 19.21 and upgrade the Oracle Linux to 19.18. To Oracle Linux 8. Yeah. And then there was a question about how would that work if you have Oracle Linux 8 on one side and Oracle Linux 7 on the other node. As long as the way data guard works is that as long as you have the binary of the database that's either on the same release or like one minor release away, it works fine. So the underlying OS does not impact the data guard operation. Okay.
So, hi, Paul, Carlos,
Yes.
can I just add something here? So for everybody on the call, obviously, I'm not the one who did the DPR upgrade. So I'm coming at this from a layperson's point of view, and the way I look at it is this. In order to get to ODA software 19.21, we needed DPR. We needed DPR because what we're really doing is that we are upgrading Oracle Linux 7 to Oracle Linux 8. So if you imagine a whole software stack, the OS usually tends to be near the bottom. What DPI gives us is the ability to take out Oracle Linux 7, shove in Oracle Linux 8, and preserve as much of the configuration as possible. On any other system out there, you would almost have to wipe the whole machine and start again. So for those of you who think, wow, this sounds really complicated, this sounds really, really hard to do, why do you do this? Keep in mind what we're doing here, right? We're giving you an OS upgrade and then preserving as much of your data as possible. So this is like changing the tires on the car while you're barreling down the highway, or changing a combustion engine into an electric car while it's barreling down a highway, right? We're taking the engine out and replacing it. And because of that, it's going to impose some restrictions on you, right? So you can't run software that isn't compatible with Oracle Linux 8. Are you running any of the software? We don't know. We don't know all of the range of hardware and software, all the range of software and applications that customers have out there, okay? So from Oracle's perspective, from an ODA perspective, that's the biggest change to go to 19.21. So what Paul said just now was absolutely correct. The version of DataGuard that you're running is the one that sets your compatibility. If your DataGuard works between two versions of Oracle Database, it will work just fine on this. We don't make any other requirements on DataGuard. If you want to run your main system on 19.21, but you want your DB systems on your older version, or you want your app VMs on an older version, that's entirely up to you. There may be some restrictions on how far behind you can be. That's something that we can go through and look through the documentation and do evaluations on. Obviously, we always recommend that you upgrade as much as possible because of patches and bug fixes and stuff like that. And we try to make the process as painless as possible in the ODA. They understand that some customers that like to go in and tinker. They want to go in, they tinker, they change everything. They want to get everything exactly right. Custom this, custom that, custom everything. That may not be the best thing to do in ODA. The ODA idea is that it's an appliance. It's meant to be designed with the best, most compatible, safest, most reliable settings on it. And we try and maintain that through the life of the system as much as possible. Okay.
Yeah. You know, there's a question, someone asking, how long is it going to take to reimage the X8-2HA system with 1921? To reimage. So this is some other question. This is a question that we got before, right? When the customer says, if I don't want to go through the DPR, I have a small database and I have a backup of it, can I just reimage? And the reimage is will take you, if you run in parallel, probably here in this setup, it took us about 65 minutes per server, right? So say 75 minutes overall. You reimage it, and then you can restore your small database. So if here, I mean, this process preserves all the data for customers who have larger databases, multiple databases. You don't want to deal with the backup. But certainly that can be an option for someone who has a simpler setup with a small database.
I also want to add that the more customizations you have done on the ODA that you have, the more variable that 75-minute number is going to be, okay? So obviously, you know, Carlos and Paul, they're from the ODA team. They'll follow best practices. They'll follow the documentation. They'll follow all the recommendations that come with from Oracle. If you have a customer, or if you are a kind of customer that has a very custom setup because of requirements inside your environment, just understand that some of those customizations may add a bit more time to your upgrade process.
Yes. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. We are 3 minutes over the hour.
Last call.
Yeah, last call.
If not, then I will go back to my slides. Let me just go back to mine. So, okay, hang on. Let me just go back to my slides here. You guys can stay on video as it won't be very much longer than this. So, yeah, so Carlos was telling me this picture isn't big enough. He wants more of his photo on the screen here. All right, so everybody, that was a lot of information that we have thrown at you. There was a lot of
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
There was a lot of information that we have thrown at you, and I would be very impressed if you remembered a lot of it. It's certainly a lot for me. So where do you get more information? So obviously, the ODA product page, external public product page, please go there. Please go and take a look at it. And then obviously, documentation, products, new updates, new features come up. Go and take a look at the documentation as well. That's where all the more detailed information is. And Carlos showed you a snapshot of that with all the documentations available. You can go back and look at ODA documentation all the way for the last 10 years, all right, to see how the product has evolved. In between those two, there is something called an ODA blog, and Paul and Carlos post stuff on the blog that usually are more like short snippets of information or really quick reference information, stuff that doesn't need all of the end-to-end process of the technical documentation and doesn't quite fit on the product page. So if you go to the blog, you see a lot of Paul and Carlos's posts on there. And from a community perspective, if you are so interested, if you are willing to join us, come and join our LinkedIn group, right? We have an ODA LinkedIn group. We would love to be able to go and post stuff on there. We will try and post event information onto the LinkedIn group as well. Invite you to come and join. And that way, then you also get to meet other ODA users around the world. So this is the global ODA LinkedIn group. And who knows, if you have a request for any particular kind of event or session or kind of like content, you could put a request inside there and we'll try and accommodate you. All right. It basically gives you a chance to be able to get some feedback into the ODA product team as well. Carlos, did you want to say something?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, so you missed the ODA YouTube channel. So I dropped
we'll post a link we'll post something onto the LinkedIn group and you can go there and you can find that kind of thing. Right? Yeah, that'll be your reward. If you actually come to the ODA LinkedIn group, we will let you come and have a look at the YouTube channel for ODA as well. Okay.
So I dropped the link in the chat. So
in the chat? Okay, cool. All right. It's in the chat. All right. Okay. All right.
So there are a lot of step-by-step demo videos like this one on that link for previous webcasts.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I don't know if this happens at all, but if you happen to have your own ODA videos or ODA page or ODA fan blog or something like that, we would love to hear about it as well. All right, ODA TikTok channel. I don't know. Some of you might have that kind of thing. Anyway, at the top of the hour. Thank you very much to everybody that's been here on this session. I really appreciate it. I want to thank Paul and Carlos and Slade for being here. This is the third session we have done. We did JPAC and EMEA a couple of weeks ago, and now we're doing North America and Latin America. I believe an email will come out to you in the next week or two with the slides available for you to download and with a link to the recording as well. Paul, Carlos, Slade, did you want to say anything else in closing?
No, thank you for attending. Any questions, go to LinkedIn and just drop questions. There's a big team in there that will help you with the answers.
Yeah, and if you ask me really nicely, I'll give you Paul and Carlos's home and mobile numbers. Not a problem.
All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.